What is up, everyone? Welcome to week 10 of A Dave and a Dan, and dare I say, nearly every single week so far has been more or less good for the viewers. It's been good for the Daves of the world, but we can't take sole credit. It's not like it's only good here. It seems like it's good for the Dans out there as well. The Dans are having quite a year. I don't know if you've been paying attention, Dave, but I've been trying to kind of highlight how many favorites have been winning so far. And in fact, I just saw that this past month has been essentially the worst month for sportsbooks. And somehow there hasn't been a downtick in its rigged complaints. Somehow, amidst Vegas and the sportsbooks' worst beatings of all time, every regular Joe Blow was just more correct than they've ever been before. Yet all the allegations still come out. But to all you Dans out there, who it doesn't matter, you need to take the favorite. You need to bet on Floyd Mayweather. You need to bet on Kentucky basketball. You need to bet on the Edmonton Oilers. You need to take the Avalanche. You need to take the Boston Celtics. It's been a great couple of months for you here, especially in the NFL. Will that continue? History has kind of suggested not really. What's going on, Dave? How are you doing? How was your week? I think it seemed to go pretty well. Achane catching a million balls out there. Waddle's an afterthought.
Dude, first off, we hit our pirate parlay, didn't we?
I don't think we did. I think I screwed you this time.
I had people messaging me from watching this that said we hit it. So maybe they played it differently than we. What was it? It was Achane.
You did 100% of your job correct. Your Achane was 100% correct. Our mutual Devontae Smith was 100% correct. Well, Nick Chubb got to 15 carries relatively quickly. I think he got there by the end of the third quarter. The one thing I didn't factor in, and I had some of your support on that, and that was that the Chargers, the way they play, they just pull away from nobody. They pull away from no one. So if that game was even relatively close, we were hitting that 17. We were hitting that. Look, I'm not going to complain. He hit his over 12.5, which is what the line moved to once Ford was guaranteed in, and he hit his 15. So it's not like it was bad, decent sniff. Just, I guess I got greedy with the level of alt. But many people do. It's like I trust you guys, but not fully. I think they shave a little off all of our alts. I think they do 10 less on Achane, 10 less on Smith, and a couple carries less on Chubb. I think that's why some of the people won.
You might be right. Because, I mean, look, we were right there. The reads were nice, and then Devontae Smith coming through late in that game was super helpful. Finished with 87 and one of the best touchdown grabs I've ever seen.
That's the allure with lower receiving totals. Players like that. And the fact that you're never out of it. Justin Jefferson, you better have like 60 by halftime, or else you're chasing that number for the rest of the game. There was one that we talked about here. I brought his name up and I said, if D.Douglas, if we know that it's not Jacoby Brissett starting, then I want to go right back to that over on receiving. Unfortunately, on the show, I was like, yeah, the over 33.5 receiving yards. Then we can do like the 40.5 to 45.5. Then on Twitter, I posted the alt receptions. Pretty sure you saw that. And he ended up going 4 catches, 5 catches, 6 catches, 7 catches. And now I kind of posed that question to you for this week. This is 2 out of 3 games now. He's hit these catches. Now I got overeager with the receiving yards. Against the Bears, would you feel comfortable going back to D.Douglas? He didn't have a lot of receiving yards, but he had a hell of a lot of looks. And if Drake May continues to play relatively well, he's going up against a defense that has been more exposed on the ground than through the air. But where Douglas lines up, it's kind of matchup and defense proof because he's never lining up out wide and taking the best cornerback. That's usually going to be like Kendrick Bourne. Do you like the wiggly DeMar? Is this a guy I'm just saying way too much on this show? An obscure receiver on the Patriots?
I think when you've run good on a guy and you've had the right reads on a player, you kind of just want to keep going back to it, right? So I don't blame you. I think I'm kind of on an island with this game. I actually like the Bears. I think the Bears match up well against the Patriots. Obviously everyone's down on the Bears. They've scored 21 total points over the last 2 games. Had that massive boneheaded move in the end zone against Washington to lose that game. Scored 9 points last week in Arizona against an underwhelming Arizona defense. Overachieving, no doubt, but still not great. I look at this game and I'm like, man, okay, so Patriots, what's the way to, if you're the Patriots, to beat the Bears? Okay, you just run the football, but they also can't block for shit. Like their run blocking's really bad. If you look at yards before contact per attempt among running backs this year, 2 in the bottom 5 are Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson. They can't run block. That's the one way to get them. If you're forced to the air, yeah, you might see a spot where D.Douglas has like 6 for 35 or something. So I see where you're going. It's a good and respectable Chicago secondary. I think this lines up really nicely for them. I'm almost curious to see what do the D.Swift carries look like, because if you're smart,
I was just thinking that same thing.
Right? Like if you're smart with the way
it's got
that
to be 17 and a half. It's got to be.
Wow.
What's your prices right guess?
15 and a half. But if we can look, if you're the Bears,
so Alex, while we're talking, pull that up and we'll keep going until you find that one.
If you're the Bears, why would you
look at this guy?
Ooh, look
at this guy real quick.
Look at that. Yeah. 17 and a half for a guy like, okay, so DraftKings has 17 and a half. Looks like you're actually more in line because, I mean, if you can bet on Hard Rock right now, jam that 15 and a half. Scroll down a little bit, Alex. Does Pinnacle have anything? Okay, Caesars minus or 15 and a half, but juice to the over. Yeah, so okay, so what we're seeing is there's not actually agreement in the market here at all. There's no agreement. There's no agreement. Usually, if you look at longest reception prop, if you look at longest rush, if you look at rushing attempts, oftentimes you kind of just see a uniform number across the market, right? Especially later in the week. Like longest reception is almost always the same. Almost always across all of these books, give or take a yard, if that. But you're seeing a 15 and a half minus 115 and then a 17 and a half on DraftKings and FanDuel. Interesting.
Very interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. That was just straight out of an old piece of garbage movie. Anyway, that's definitely something that is on the board. I like those rushing attempts. So I mentioned how all the Dans have been doing well so far. It's week 10. It's November now. Let's see if that is poised to continue. If you could be so kind to show me where the donkeys are headed this week. And right before you hopped on, me and Alex just scrolled down the list of the spreads. And I just said, bet you everyone's on that. Bet you everyone's on that. Bet you everyone's on that. It's so easy to see some of these. The first 2 that stuck out to me were the Lions and then the Bills. And it's got that rat number attached to it. If there was a number affiliated with rats, it would be 3.5. It just reeks of a team winning by 3, like when we sniffed out the Green Bay Packers winning by 3 when they were 3.5 point favorites over the Jacksonville Jaguars a couple weeks back. Remind me, the Lions are
in Houston.
Yes.
With Nico Collins expected back.
Potentially or definitely?
I think he's coming back.
Because that definitely makes a big difference. I can see why people are all over the Lions. The Lions just handled back-to-back playoff opponents, essentially, or maybe even back-to-back-to-back, but they handled it with relative ease. Pretty flawless. They're getting Jameson Williams back. And one thing that I thought it was interesting, if you see the receiving props, even on Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's in the mid-60s. Laporta is once again in the 30s. How many yards is Jared Goff throwing for? And are both of these guys staying under their ridiculously low totals?
Well, can I just say, first of all, that the comments I've gotten in my video of the Odd Shopper video from this specific Lions game, dude, people hate when I bet against the Lions. Like, dude, if you want to talk about the most public team in the world right now, you can look at that, but you could also just use anecdotal evidence. All right, here's one. Goofball's been losing money betting against the Lions all year. He's talking about me, right? Now, mind you, like, this is how wild people are. I responded to him, didn't know it was from my personal account. I said, I've bet on the Lions in 3 of the last 6 weeks from this exact video. He says, good, exclamation point. I think he has no idea that it's me from the video who's talking to him, right?
Yo,
The other one.
He gave you the Eric Madison or the Brian Madison where he just goes, good.
Yeah,
okay, that's nice.
Taking the Lions over the Texans after the Jets game is crazy work. Of course, but nobody wanted to bet the Jets, which I did, after they lost that game to the Patriots, right? So it's just, here's another one. Dude has been and is going to continue to bet against the Lions, just waiting for it to finally hit so he can be like, I told you so. Andy, 50% of the games over the last 6 weeks, month and a half, I bet Lions. The other 3, I bet against them. People are so high on the Lions right now that they only remember the 3 games where I bet against the Lions. So
if you saw a picture of that guy,
yep,
you wouldn't be upset anymore. That's what it is. We unfortunately,
I'm not upset at all. I think
we're
funny.
such kind people that we like to, because it's written on a keyboard and somebody pressed enter. We like to think, oh, it was a human being who sent that. It was a gargoyle who turns into stone at 3 a.m. and then wakes up the next day just to angrily type those things in again. I mean, if you're even remotely paying attention, so many of these rats still have come through, even in the most public month in NFL history. And guy out there betting the Lions, congrats. Ride your once in a decade wave, getting a bunch of favorites, yet you're still managing to lose because what did you do? You parlayed every last thing on the slate. That's what you did. You're going to lose regardless of what happens. And the Lions are not the correct side to bet on this game. Just treat it at least as a minesweeper. At least say, you know what? That looks fishy. Because obviously they're regarded as essentially the second best team in the NFL. You think everybody doesn't know that the Texans don't look good? I took the Jets because I'm like, I don't trust C.J. Stroud. Week 2, I told Dave, I don't even trust him permanently. I need to see a quarterback for 5 years. Jaden Daniels means nothing to me. He's awful to me until the next 3 years go by. That's how I am. That's how I am with NHL goalies, NFL quarterbacks. You have to prove things consistently because you can fall in love with a lot of RG3s who take the league by storm, and then people start to figure them out. Well, CJ Stroud, I understand. I bet against him last week right alongside you with the Jets. Everybody knows he's going up against this Detroit team that's killing everybody.
Yep.
We all think the spread should be -6.5. That's literally the wink you need to say, I think I'll just move elsewhere. But no, you're going to put all caps, all bold. You're going to that strike-through lettering website to reformat your fonts, to put crazy things in. That's what you're doing rather than just staying away from the donkey plays. How about next up, the Bills, 3.5. Who do they got?
They got the Colts, and I like the Colts here too. It's just another one of those games where you've got the Colts coming off of a really ugly loss. Flacco looked terrible. Primetime football, Andy, Sunday night, right? Everything looked bad for them. But 3.5 is another one of those lines where, yeah, maybe Buffalo just comes in and routes them. But the Colts aren't a bad team. They got the healthy defensive line. Now, they only allowed 21 to the Vikings there. They're back at home. I mean, maybe we just wait for it to move to 4. That's where I grabbed it earlier in the week. It was at 4. It might move back there. I like the Colts at +4.
I don't blame you. Here's what I'll say. He likes the Colts at +4. I'm definitely not taking the Bills at -3.5. That's kind of the approach I'm going with. I always like to see what's under the sheets. Are they cleaning, or is it like those? You ever hear that? I don't know if this is an old wives' tale. They say that comforters are never washed in hotels. And it kind of makes sense. How are they washing all of those comforters? The sheets, sure. The comforters?
If that's true, that's disgusting. That's tough.
It's tough to say never. But if you really kind of run the numbers and the odds, you know they're not getting as frequently washed as those sheets. So how often are they really getting washed? Just something to think about while you're debating whether you want to take a favorite at 3.5 on the road, or you want to take the underdog, or wait to go to +4, or do what I'm going to do and notice that Keon Coleman isn't playing, and I'm going to my guy. He hasn't had a great year, but he hasn't had a bad year. He's seeing his target share pretty much steadily go up. Some is because of injuries, some is for other reasons, but I know that Allen looks at him as one of the dynamic playmakers on this team. Many go-to situations, he's looking at this guy, and I'm going to Dalton Kincaid. I think he's 39.5 or 40.5 receiving yards. So we had Amari Cooper miss last week. We had Keon Coleman is out for a couple weeks, so we'll see a Cooper status. But I do know when those guys are not a factor, it's two guys, Shakir over the middle and also Kincaid.
Yep.
Now, Kincaid had an absurd target share last week. So when you look at, oh my God, but this would have lost last week, like Dave always says, look at the numbers surrounding that loss. Here's the thing. I'm not an alts guy on Kincaid. What he's doing is kind of consistently clearing this 39 to 40 yard total.
Yeah.
But he's not crushing it. So to me, this is a standard 9 to 5 sniff. It's not a Dan play, because I don't think Dan's are real happy to take Kincaid. I like the over on a low to mid 40s Kincaid in this game indoors against the Colts.
I like it too. Indoors, nice total here. Should be, really you have some potential shootout conditions in this game as well. 47-point total. I got one from the other side as well.
Nice.
Jonathan Taylor over 18.5 receiving.
Receiving. Yeah. Yep. I saw those attempts last week to get him the ball. I think he screwed everyone on a -6 catch.
Yeah.
I think he did, right?
Yeah. But it doesn't, I don't even care much because, first of all, he's not looked at as this kind of prolific pass catching back. Jonathan Taylor's not a bad pass catching back. I still remember his first couple of seasons where this guy was ripping off like 50, 60-yard receiving touchdowns, And I'm not saying that you should expect that. That's not par for the course when it comes to Taylor. But really, how you've loved the Demario Davis spot this year? Or Douglas, getting those good spots.
Don't worry, I call him Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, all those guys don't deserve names.
By the way, good sniff on Jacoby.
Yeah.
I keep taking the both of them. You know what? That's what I'm doing every week.
Just take them both.
Give me the over for Myers, Douglas. If one of them has a good day, I know I'm even.
Yeah. So, all right, this is the spot for me that has been just a print fest all year. Running back, receiving yard, ladder plays. Not like, I'm not even telling you have to go crazy, but alt plays, betting the standard line too against the Bills. Who did D.Achane play last week? Yeah,
Bills.
The Bills.
Yep.
I've laddered his receiving twice against the Bills this year. They lost Milano before the season even started. They don't have the personnel to defend pass catching running backs. Taylor's still a very dynamic player. And, while Sermon got some snaps last week, it's not like he's a good playmaker. Tyler Goodson played,
not at all.
Yeah, one snap in that game. Just the Jonathan Taylor show. In this game, I expect 20+% of snaps. I expect him to run routes on, 55, maybe even 60% of dropbacks here. And when you look at what Detroit, what's been done to Buffalo in the passing game, most targets, most receptions, most yards allowed to opposing running backs on the season, tied for the most receiving touchdowns. But just go back and look at the amount of teams that have had big time receiving, or players, running backs that have had big time receiving efforts against them. I like him at 18.5. I also like at +155 on DraftKings, the 25 receiving yards for Jonathan Taylor. I bet it already. I already threw it into my Discord.
It's in. It's locked. I have no problem taking a little sniff on that. He had 3 catches, I believe, last week. So some of those were definitely designed screens. I think when he plays with a traditional quarterback, his receiving props are pretty good. Last week opened at 11.5. This week opened way higher than that, even though he lost, which lets you know the indicators are there for him to do well from a receiving
He's
standpoint.
also cleared this number in 3 of his last 5 games, so it's not like he can't do it. And this is a way better matchup.
Yeah, would I be scared with Richardson? Absolutely, but this is Flacco. It's an ideal guy to get it out of to get it out of their hands, especially considering how the line kind of got eviscerated by the blitz last week.
Yeah.
You know, you figure the next defense that comes in, they see that, they try to kind of mimic that type of game plan. So how do you nullify that? Getting the ball out of Flacco's hands, dumping.
I wouldn't even touch this number with Richardson. I wouldn't touch it with Richardson.
Yes, that is what I like to call correct. If you can show me those donkey charts one more time, there's one that stood out to me as you were scrolling before, and that is the Falcons. Now, on that list, it says Falcons -4. I believe when we were looking on FanDuel before, we saw -3.5. The Saints have lost everyone under the sun, and the guy I've deemed the loser is even worse than I thought. I mean, I call him the loser. I said when they were 2-0, he'll find a way to get you to 500. This is considerably worse, although he didn't start a few of those losses. And the worst part for Saints fans, the worst part about the loser is he's going to win some meaningless games, and then you're not going to get that top 5 pick. That's the Derek Carr experience. He screws you from both directions. And I don't know if he's going to start trending in that direction. We're almost getting to that point where, well, we know the Saints aren't going to be anything this year. Time for some meaningless wins. This one has the looks of, I don't know if it's a straight out win, but you think, oh my God, no Olave, Shaheed's gone. They got nobody. Even Wilson might miss the game. How are they going to win against the Falcons? You see the Falcons? Oh, my God. They won last week. Cowboys, no problem. Cousins throwing 3 touchdowns every game. Big winning streak. I got to take the Falcons. Who you taking?
Your audience is going to hate me for this.
I have a general disdain for sports bettors regardless, whether it's my audience or somebody else. I always look at them like these frantic maniacs with a fistful of cash, like the Monopoly man, running from video to video going, where can I put this? Where can I put this? And if there's something that doesn't agree with just a chalky, idiotic narrative, they're like, oh, this guy's an idiot. I need to find somebody who agrees with me on a donkey play.
No, and also it bothers me none that people get upset about these plays. If you're out there, someone consuming content and you agree with every single play, you're in the wrong place. No. How are you not taking the Saints in this game? Like that. See, isn't that crazy though? To other people, they hear that and they go, what is this dude talking about? But if you've been betting sides long enough in football, you know that like they're giving you the 3.5, by the way, at -105. It's like the most prototypical dead bounce spot that you've seen for a team that just fired their head coach, just lost to Carolina. Like, remember when Carolina benched Bryce Young? And the next week, I said it too, like dead cat bounce, went into Las Vegas and routed the Raiders, right? And then they just proceeded to lose every game thereafter, up until last week when they beat the Saints, and the Saints promptly fired their head coach. So it's like the Panthers are really the crux in all of this. Whatever, this all comes back to the Panthers. Ben always talks about, Ben from Odd Chopper, like the transitive property with football betting, right?
There couldn't be a more Ben way to explain something.
He's big time, and he couldn't be more right either, right? Like say, like if you were to look at the game from last week and try to apply something to this week, it's like, no, don't.
Correct.
And as gross as it is, if you're betting this game, like, can we go back to the screenshot? How much of the money is on? How many of the tickets are on Atlanta?
Yo, I always said DFS too. Like, flush down the toilet what you saw last week. Truly Definitely. Flush it. And that guy who screwed you last week, be as equally as open to play him once again if you think it's a good play. Because if you're thinking it, I had a friend who used to say this, if I'm thinking it, somebody else is definitely thinking it. And he said this in regards to something stupid, but it actually makes some sense. So if your average Joe Blow is going away from something, I'll never forget when I was a kid, we were drinking in an alley, like, in high school or something. like idiots, a place where you truly have no escape, an alley. And the cops came and everybody started running down this block. And I just grabbed like as many people as I could. I saw 95 people running down one block. I go, that's where the cops are going. And I took 3 people and just dragged them to a fork that went the other way. Well, the cops went down where everybody was. And we just happened to be completely fine. We didn't get in trouble, none of that stuff. They didn't write our names down, even though you don't really get in much trouble if you're 15 years old. That's what it all comes back to, the cops in the alley catching you drinking. Who do you want to be with? The ones that get away or the ones that don't? Alex, Google a really disgusting individual. Yeah, Google that for actually, I don't think you can Google it because Google doesn't like to show mean results. Use some weird browser and Google a really disgusting individual. That's who's going to be on a lot of these plays.
Try using the term slovenly and see. It's a great word. I try and inject that anywhere I can. Can you believe how chalky these are though? Like, I understand that you're going to get chalky. You've got 5 of them at 83+%. Falcons, Bills, but and you know what? Maybe Andy, this is another week where the chalk and the chalk plays, and as you'd call them, the Dan plays, just end up, the public spots end up all winning again. But wow, look at that. Eagles -7 is 83%. Falcons -4 at 86%. This is remarkable.
In their defense, I did want to play devil's advocate and say, hey, assholes, it's a once in a 10-year Dan wave. Don't kick me off it. I'll lose my way off it. I'm so far into my Dan profits that I'm going to keep going until it goes away. And I can't really blame them for that. I can't.
I don't blame them for that. I don't. But just things to keep in mind, right? Like, even if you want to disregard everything Andy and I are even talking about, things to keep in mind are that, like, these books are not the reason that they're still in business, and the reason that this October was a bad month and the worst month or in years, but isn't usually like that, is because they know what they're doing when they're setting these lines, right? So, like, instead of just I want you to think about this for a second, and just allow me 1 second to put it to people like this, right? And I think probably a lot of the viewers know exactly where I'm going with this. When you see something that you go, whoa, look at that, gotta hammer this team, you eventually your mind's going to turn in the direction that goes, wow, look at that, I need to hammer this team, but it's the actual other team. So when something is so obvious, and they say if something looks too good to be true, it probably is. A lot of times you'll see something and you just go, that doesn't actually make any sense. Like, even the Jets being favorites against Houston after how bad they were, that stands out, and you go, you know what are we missing here? So just always ask yourself, am I missing something? And sometimes it's not going to be stats that you can find in a box score. That's all. I'm done.
Okay. I was just playing the part of, I was reenacting what you were saying out there. I was just trying to give you a good, like, Unsolved Mysteries, cheesy non-union actor reenactment right there.
But you get why you see these 80-90% of tickets, because people go, how the fuck could I lay, or could I bet the Saints at +3.5 after how badly they've played? But then you go, well, then why are they only 3.5?
Between me and you and all the people out there, there's a reason I'm always peeling back the onion looking for solid player props. You guys are going wild. Say, come on, I gotta take the Falcons. Well, how about this? This is actually, if there were percentages on player props, this is going to be mega chalk. But he's such a piece of predictable chalk. With all those receivers gone, how's Alvin Kamara not getting to 30 receiving yards or whatever it is, 33 receiving yards? Like, it just, Derek Carr is the most scared quarterback known to man.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, 35, 36. He should have 70. He honestly should have 10 catches in this game. They played him. He was on the field every single snap. And do you think it's getting any better? I mean, they have nobody. Kendre Miller, IR, Jamal Williams was inactive. Taysom Hill, they'll give a lot of short yardage opportunities. But any sort of, second and long, third and long, so many opportunities for checkdowns. You normally don't see me. Even when you took A.Achane, I'm like, oh, God, that's a high total. But Kamara to me is an exception from Captain Lord checkdowns. This may be the last year. I don't know what the streak has been, but every year it's been Rivers or Carr, and I've been milking their running backs for receiving yards and receptions. The problem is they got so crazy with Kamara, I've had to back off. But when you take out all these receivers, you're talking about even Jawan Johnson had to leave that last game. This is one I'll be happy to lose on. I'll be happy to lose on if it doesn't hit.
His receptions prop has got to be his
guy's got to be 5.5. It's got to be 5.5
with overjuiced 4.5, 5.5. Okay, so with the underjuiced on 4.5, 5.5. Okay, yeah, that's the problem because if you want to bet if you want to bet over 4.5, you're just paying an arm and a leg for it for sure.
I mean, I don't even look at. I swear to you, I don't look at 6.5 or 7.5 as a big issue. Not in this game
either.
with none of the receivers.
The only thing is, like, do they just find a way to neutralize him because there's nobody else? And I still don't know if they can or they will. That's the only thing I ever think about with Kamara when he's facing at least a decent opponent. Because with Carolina, it doesn't count. They're a totally unserious football team, right? Like, you just knew that he would kind of have his way with them. He ended up going on for 215 yards or something? Yeah, I think he had 215 total yards from scrimmage. I'm with you though. I
may go receptions. You may be right. They may have two people on him. It ain't going to stop Carr from taking a 1 yard check down right to just get it out of his hands.
Who are his other options? Seriously, who are the other options here? Rashid Shaheed is out. There's just absolutely no way that Chris Olave is playing, right? I mean, he's doubtful. There's simply no way.
No way.
We don't even know if Cedric Wilson is going to play. So he hasn't practiced. So now you're talking about Mason Tipton, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Bub Means is on the IR. They might have to bring Dante Pettis or Equanimous St. Brown up or something like that. So, yeah.
That's pretty wild.
You might just be forced to play Alvin Kamara in this spot.
Yeah, I'll take the loss. If he doesn't happen to come through.
Hey, by the way, you want to have some fun with something real quick?
All the time.
All right, let's load up. We don't have to. It won't take any time. I already built it. What do you think about a money line round robin for 4 of the dogs this week? I'll get Houston, Indy, Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin coming off a bye against a rookie quarterback, and the Saints. What do you think, baby?
Is there a fifth one? Is there a fifth?
No, you want to throw? I'm not throwing the Cowboys in there. I just can't.
I didn't say that. I just said, is there a fifth we can add? Because that means if we nail 3.
Let's find one.
Show me those donkey charts again.
Like, I don't want to bet the Titans. All right. How much worse is Mac Jones actually than Trevor Lawrence?
Look, we're grasping at straws.
I'm just asking you a question.
I would tell people not to do this.
I'm just asking you. I would like to stick with 4 here. But really, how much worse is Mac Jones than Trevor Lawrence?
He's worse. He's a real asshole.
I don't know. I bet a lot of preseason football, and Mac Jones looked pretty damn sick.
Well, you just mentioned that you got the Jets at plus 1.5, which I think is pretty interesting.
Plus one. They're minus 1.5 now.
Oh, I actually just wanted to bring up something in that game. This is something that I'm going to be doing. Okay, but yeah, those 5 teams, fine. Let's round robin them.
It's kind of fun. I mean, I put $10 on buy 2s, $10 on buy 3s. So that's a $100 bet, right? Because it's six wagers by 2s, 4 wagers by 3s. It's $100 to win about 1,000. I'll take my chances. Plus, with the round robin, we could hit 2 of those money lines and still be okay. It's going to be look, Andy. If nothing else, this is a fun one. Like money line dogs is round robins is fun, and I'm willing. I'll go back to my buddy Ben. Ben goes, I love the sports bet. I love to be smart, but you know what I like even more? I like to gamble. And sometimes gambling is just fun.
There's absolutely no doubt about that. These Jets last week had a killing on Thursday Night Football. I took the Jets. I took the over on Adams. Things worked out very well for me. We know that they just traded Mike Williams. We also know that Alan Lazard is on IR for the foreseeable future. As long as it doesn't get crazy. I'm going over on Adams receptions, and I am going over on Garrett Wilson receiving yards. Because all those quick option route, I need a first down. It's just 4 yards. I'm doing a hand signal, and then that's it. You're just running a quick out. Those, I think, are all going to Adams. And you really saw those start to click at one point throughout that last game. Indoor game in Arizona, where I believe Rodgers has always played relatively well. You're talking about those two and Ty Conklin. So those two are getting pretty much everything, unless Conklin has the huge game. But for the foreseeable future, until these totals get to a number where I'm just not willing to take it, I'm going over on, I think it was 65 or 66 and a half receiving yards for Garrett Wilson. And then I'm laddering those receptions for Davante Adams. I'm not sure if I sent you that screenshot. I think he set it 5.5. But without Lazard there to take those 3 extra catches, those 4 catches, he would always seem to get on him, a 4-yard catch for a first down. I'm going with the 6. I'm going with the 7. I'm willing to go up to 9. There's something about 10 I just can't do. I'm not trying to predict 10 catch games.
10's a lot.
I just can't do that. I can't do that. I need to be somewhat of even if I'm uncivilized, there's only a certain amount I'm willing to go. I mean, I'll eat that thing rare, but not just straight up, you kill the animal and hand it to me. I will go up to 9.
They've got nothing else. You're right, man. And it's like even Malachi Corley made such a big mistake in that last game. Their rookie receiver who had that 18-yard rush that should have been a touchdown, dropped it right before he got to the goal line. Like, that's going to doghouse you for sure. Mike Williams is in Pittsburgh. You're right. I won't rehash everything you said, but you would think that no joke, going forward on the season, I wouldn't be shocked if the target share is like 65% combined between Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams.
Yeah, I mean, Hall does get a lot of looks anytime Rodgers is under
pressure.
Yeah,
he's the other 35%.
That's 100. That 35% is 100% correct. Yeah. So that's just something that's one more thing that caught my eye. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. How about maybe anything that I've left out that has caught your eye when it comes to props? It could even be spreads. Is there anything that you've given out or that you really want to push my way? Because you steered me towards the Achane receiving. I tried to get greedy when Tua was out of the lineup. Oh, that actually just reminded me. That is a Monday night game. But I saw that his rushing yards were at 51.5 last night. And he has been incredibly efficient with his yards per carry, with his catches ever since Tua's come back. Mostert's had this huge fumbling problem. He fumbled yet again and then got benched. So the question is, do you think Jalen Wright is just going to take all of Mostert's work or some of Mostert's work? Is Mostert not going to be disciplined whatsoever? To me, I think it kind of steers just a little more towards Achane. And he's cleared this 51 number every week since Tua's been back. I see no reason not to go to that.
No, me neither. Achane's the man. I love that. I mean, he's so good. I bet on him all the time. So, no, just go. He's super efficient.
What is that up to? Yeah, 51.5, right?
Yeah, 51.5 on Caesars. Yeah, wow, look at the difference between Caesars and DraftKings with not that much difference in the juice. Look at that. 57.5 on DraftKings.
Well, you know which direction it's heading.
Wow. I like it. I got another one for you, too.
All right.
If you are not laddering Malik Nabers this week, I don't even care if it wins. Like, I want it to win, but I don't care. You got to ladder this spot on Nabers. 71.5 receiving against the Carolina Panthers. I mean, come on, man. So if you look at the Carolina Panthers and you look at the New York Giants, why is Malik Nabers, why have Daniel Jones struggled recently? It's very obvious, right? You faced Washington, pretty good pass rush, a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones. You faced Pittsburgh, fantastic pass rush, and Nabers still got to 71 in that game, got to 59 last week against Philly. That was a dominant pass rushing performance by the defensive line of that Eagles team. All right, now let's reverse course here. Daniel Jones is actually good with a clean pocket. He's horrible under pressure. Maybe the worst quarterback in the league under pressure. They lost their left tackle. They're starting, great left tackle is out. But Carolina has zero pass rush. Zero pass rush. Now, if you wanted to say, yeah, but Dave, they can just run the ball as much as they want and go to Tyron Tracy instead. You know what? Wouldn't hate that either. But Malik Nabers is such a focal point of this offense that if you don't think with a clean pocket, Daniel Jones is going to pepper this guy left and right in this Germany game, I don't know what to tell you. Again, unless they just run the ball and they can have their way with Carolina, this is as good a spot as ever. This sets up so nicely for Nabers because Jones should have a clean pocket, and I love it.
Perfect way to start our Build a Dave parlay.
All right.
We could start with Malik Nabers. Let's go 90 plus receiving. Is that, I know you wanted 100, but I like shaving a little bit. I don't want to let that beard grow too. I like to shave a little bit off, remain somewhat civilized out there. So let's start with that 90 plus for Malik Nabers. Next, I will go to those alt receptions for Davante Adams. I'll keep things clean once again. I'll do a cowardly 7+. I'll go 7+ catches because his line is 5.5, right?
Yep.
So I'll go 7+ catches for Davante Adams. I think we could end on Monday night with a 65-yard rushing for D.Achane, something like that.
Okay, yeah, I'm okay. And then let me throw my Jonathan Taylor 25 receiving.
Yeah, there you go. So we got the Nabers 90+ receiving. We got the 7+ catches for Davante Adams. Then we have the 25+ receiving for Jonathan Taylor. And then if you nail those 3 legs, the smart thing to do is just take the standard over on D.Achane rushing so that you can just then hedge it and for a pretty much an equal price because that total is only going to go up. So if you took just the over 51.5 as the 4th leg of this parlay and then it gets to game time and the thing is at 59.5, you can then take the 59.5 under, have the opportunity to hit both, and you're pretty much guaranteeing yourself a minimum of half that bet. Just something you like to do. I always like to leave the last leg of a parlay as a borderline favorite and on an island game. Just some parlay theory out there for you. But I think that's how we will end this Week 10 show. Dave, always a pleasure. Thank you for bringing so many of those things to my attention. It's going to be those random money line round robin plays. I'm going to be going in on that Nabers, which was one I didn't think about. And then also the Jonathan Taylor receiving. I was one of the guys that was like, kind of lost for me last week. I'll revisit that in a week or two. But now you got me back on it. So very much appreciated. Anything you want to say on the way out? Maybe give yourself that pat on the back. Let people know where to find you as always. And if there's anything else that you want added.
Yeah, no pat on the back, but a shout out to you guys for coming over and checking out everything I do too. And for Andy bringing me on this show. We've had a good time. But over at Oddshopper, over oddshopper.com or our Oddshopper YouTube channel, Odds Shopper. So 2 S's there, all one word. And I had one question for you though before we get out of here.
Yeah.
D.Swift 71.5 rushing. Yay or nay?
Yay, because I'm going to take the over. I'm going to take as soon as we end this, I'm taking that 15.5 rushing.
Okay. Love it.
Because it's going to be 17.5 by the time this is uploaded. Sorry, everyone. I screwed you. Oh, I know you're checking right now. I know you're checking right now thinking you found the last one. It's over. It's too late. I got it in. I'm laughing at your expense. but you want to know, maybe I'll share some of the love if you share some of the love. How can you do that? By giving a guy a click. You know, as I like to say, I sniff, you click. Do me a favor, like these videos, comment, smack them with the engagement. Somebody Dave knows was suggested this video last week. So if that's going to be the case, then, you know, that's because you guys are sharing it. Share it to your Facebook wall of the account that you haven't used in 10 years. You know that? You just let that Facebook account just sit there. That's going to be real funny if your last post was going off about something in 2011. Like, WrestleMania was garbage. I'm never watching this product again. And then decades later, or a decade and a half later, yeah, you guys got to check out week 10 of a Dave and a Dan. That's the next thing on your Facebook wall. Hopefully we see that upload. Yeah, show me the screenshot of your Facebook share and what the previous thing was before that. Anyway, thank you guys so much. We'll be back with you next week. Obviously, I got more hockey stuff and football stuff coming out on the video, so make sure you subscribe and click those notifications. I'm done begging for clicks. Take it easy. We'll see you next week.